Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome to Friday practice day for the 2022 Mexico City Grand Prix weekend. Hope all you guys are doing well ahead of what's going to be an exciting weekend as we normally get here in Mexico, a competitive weekend and of course a great atmosphere at the circuit in Mexico City, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be an interesting Grand Prix for sure. I don't think it's going to be just a boring race weekend. I know Red Bull out front, they are looking, given their form as of late and given their history around this circuit, it is looking ominous for or from Red Bull. But yeah, I think we're still going to have a good weekend. I think we've definitely got many parts of the grid where we're going to have a lot of competition and some interesting things happening for sure as the weekend goes on. But yeah, great to see you guys here for the practice 1 watch along. Obviously I'll be live later for the practice 2 watch along as well, and no matter what time it is in your part of the world or where you're from, I hope you're all having as best today as possible given whatever circumstances you are of course going through. Now there has been, since my weekend preview, which was almost exactly 24 hours ago when I went live with that, there has been a couple big bits of news. One is the reversal of the penalty for Fernando Alonso from the US Grand Prix. So Alonso has been reinstated to 7th place for the US Grand Prix race results. So I will get into later on in my practice 2 watch along stream, I will get into what the championship standings now look like, and I'll probably get into the actual FIA document itself and look at why the result was, or the penalty rather, was reversed. And I will get into the biggest news, guys, of the day, which is Red Bull and the FIA have come to their agreement, their accepted breach agreement, and it has been announced the punishment for Red Bull for violating the cost cap restrictions. I will get a lot more into that in my practice 2 stream, because obviously we do have a how long of a break? A 2-hour break, is it? Yeah, 2-hour break in between practice 1 and practice 2. So in that break, I will get into the penalty and get into all of the stuff from that whole situation that the FIA announced in their statement, and I will get into again the Alonso penalty reversal as well. But really, in this practice 1 watch along, we're just going to be focusing on the session itself and then getting into that stuff until the build up to practice 2. And just so you guys know, again, I'm having to split the practice 1 and practice 2 watch alongs. The reason is because to display, and I'll show it quickly again like I did a week ago, on the left hand side of your screen, to show these drivers with the the running order that I normally have on the screen during the session, I need to go into my Visual Studio Code and update the JavaScript, I think it is. And obviously there are some reserve drivers taking part, in practice 1, such as Liam Lawson, Jack Doohan, I think Pietro Fittipaldi, Logan Sargent, Nick De Vries as well in the Mercedes. So because I have to, for practice 2, when, of course, in those certain cars and teams, the proper race drivers come back into their cars for practice 2, I need to be able to update my code and update the JavaScript for it to display the correct names for practice 2. And the only way I can do that is by closing OBS and restarting it, and by closing OBS the stream stops. So that's why they are the two practice 1 practice 2 streams will be split up. So I will be live until 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. No, 8 p.m. Yeah, that is correct. 8 p.m. UK time, so an hour and 10 minutes from now, to do the watch along for practice 1. And then as soon as this session coming up in just under 10 minutes finishes, I will then be cutting this stream off, and then about 15 to 20 minutes later, I will be live over on my Practice 2 watch-along stream for the rest of the evening, where, yeah, from 8:15 till 10 PM UK time, I'll be doing a build-up to Practice 2 by talking about the Red Bull cost cap situation being pretty much finalised, finished, because it's now been announced what their penalties are, and I'll be getting into the Alonso penalty reversal, and then we'll get into watching the, or me taking you through the Practice 2 session from 10 PM UK time until 11:30 PM. An extra half an hour, by the way, for Practice 2, because I think they're using the 2023 Pirelli tyres for that session. Not just those tyres, but they will be available for use in that session. But yeah, that is the plan of content today. And again, if you're wanting to know what my reaction is to the Red Bull penalty for violating the 2021 cost cap, you're going to have to wait, unfortunately, till Practice 2 and the build-up to my Practice 2 stream, where I will get into, not fully, because I am wanting to do a proper video on the whole situation and presenting my thoughts, my analysis, and pretty much finalising everything that I think about the whole situation. I will be doing that at a later date. I'll just show these pictures on the screen that you'll be seeing during the watch-along. Yeah, I will be doing that at a later point, probably during the winter break, between obviously the end of this season and the start of next season. So when I get into it later in my build-up to Practice 2, and I will also talk about it tomorrow in my build-up to qualifying, I'm not going to be giving my entire analysis. I will just get into my basic thoughts about the situation, I guess you could say. But really, you know, today, tomorrow, and when that video comes out sometime during the winter break, I want to hear from you guys as to what you guys think. Do you think the penalty that Red Bull have received is too harsh? Is it the fair penalty for them, or is it too lenient? And just so you know what the punishment is, again, we'll get more so into it in what you call it, in the Practice 2 watch along and the build up to that session. But just so you know, Red Bull have been fined $7 million US, which to them is nothing. And by the way, that does not come out of their cap. So that's just a $7 million fine. It doesn't come out of their actual budget cap. And they have been given a reduction of 10% of their wind tunnel testing time from now until the end of next season, which is significant, I would say, the 10% reduction. But as I'll get into more later, it's not as big as some people are making out. It really depends on where Red Bull are at the start of next season, because, well, obviously, if they're miles ahead, it won't make a much of a difference. But again, I'll get more into what my thoughts are about the whole situation in my build-up to Practice 2. But during this session, guys, coming up in just over 5 minutes' time, you know, let me know what you think of that. Do you think, again, the penalty is too harsh? Do you think it's the fair penalty? Or do you think that the FIA have let Red Bull get away with one here? Let me know in the live chat in the next hour or so. And during the session, I will make sure to get into some of your comments in the live chat. And yeah, only 5.5 minutes to go now until Practice 1 begins. So I just want to quickly say, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because we'll be live for Practice 2 later. And of course, tomorrow, I'll be going live at 4 PM UK time. Firstly, for the qualifying preview, lasting until 5:45 PM. And then from 5:45 PM until 7 PM UK time, I'll be doing a watch along for Practice 3. 7 till 9 PM, I'll be doing a build-up to qualifying, and then from 9 till 10 PM UK time, I'll be doing the qualifying watch-along, and then for at least half an hour after the session is finished, I'll be reacting with you guys to the events of qualifying in Mexico City. So, yeah, that's what's coming up tomorrow. And, yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And if for everyone watching, don't forget to smash the like button, of course, to help the channel grow. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. That is on Twitter. But let me just quickly, as the session, by the way, is going to get underway in a couple minutes' time. Sky F1 are just going through their intros, and then we will get straight into, by the looks of it, on the broadcast, the F1 intro. And yeah, there you go, the F1 intro playing straight away. So yeah, we're not far away from the beginning of the session. And by the way, Rooksfoot has just posted in the chat, and I will post it a couple times in chat as well when we get to the final, say, 15 minutes of this session coming up in a moment. I will post the link to the Practice 2 stream. So yeah, make sure that when me and Rook post it in the chat that you click on it and you wait there until I go live. It should be about 15 to 20 minutes at most, the amount of time you'll be waiting for me to go live again. And by the way, if you're wondering, the breach was 1.8 million. Was it 1.8 million pounds was the breach? But as I'll get into later, not fully, but I'll do a basic summary, as I was saying a moment ago. What they overspent on didn't actually have an effect on last year at all. So yeah, I'll get into that later on. Let me just quickly take a look at the chat to see what you guys are saying. Great to see all of you here, by the way. Sparky Pete says FIA is such a horrible example of intelligence. Mr. President says, I thought it was quali day. It's weird because here in Asia, till now, other Grand Prix would already have completed all practice sessions. Yeah, it is a bit weird because normally, yeah, most of the season, of course, the practice sessions would have been easily done by now. Mr. President asks, any new drivers getting into practice 1 today? Yeah, well, I wouldn't say new drivers driving in this session, but the Friday practice reserve drivers that are driving in this session will be Liam Lawson in the AlphaTauri replacing Yuki Tsunoda, Jack Doohan replacing Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, Nick De Vries will be replacing George Russell in the Mercedes, Logan Sargent will be replacing Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, I believe, and I think the final one is Pietro Fittipaldi replacing Kevin Magnussen, as we are about to get underway in about a minute or so from now, and temperatures and everything looking good. Glorious weather in Mexico, hot and sunny, 24 degrees Celsius, track temperature pretty warm as well, and yeah, looking good, the weather. And if you actually look at the weather forecast for the weekend, it is looking like a nice sunny weekend in Mexico. So yeah, no chance of rain. And plenty, as we can see already, on the TV broadcast of Sergio Perez fans at circuit, which is good, of course, to see. But now, let me get up my graphics and all for the session, which is about to start in a moment. By the way, as I pointed out last week with my pictures during the Practice 1 and Practice 2 streams, apologies that the pictures are from the previous Grand Prix, but obviously we haven't had any running yet. So yeah, that's why I don't have any pictures from this weekend. But let me just get that up. Practice 1 will be an hour-long session, and with the extra half an hour being in place for Practice 2, because the 2023 prototype Pirelli tyres will be available and probably be used quite a bit in Practice 2, this might be the only representative session of the weekend, or of today, rather, not of the weekend. So, yeah, this could be quite an important session for determining who has the pace and who does not. As the session is, set to begin in a moment, and I will sync up the timer at the 59-minute mark on my screen for you guys. As the session is now underway, and Sebastian Vettel is the first man on track on hard compound tyres. Very nice tribute helmet that Sebastian has for this weekend. It's a complete throwback to the helmet he had, I think, when he won his first World Championship in 2010. Yeah, very good gesture there by Sebastian. And obviously has to thank Dietrich Mateschitz, who sadly passed away last week. Has to thank him a lot for the career he has had, because without Red Bull Racing, I'm not sure Sebastian Vettel would have... I mean, I think there's definitely an argument that Vettel maybe never would have got the chance to win a World Championship had it not had been for Red Bull. His career, for sure, would have been a lot different, and his route in F1 would have been a lot tougher than the one he had. And there you go. Timer on screen, and I'll just adjust it quickly. So, 59 minutes to go in practice one. And if it, if Red Bull never came into F1, Sebastian probably would have been stuck in the midfield for a few more years at the start of his career than he actually was, in the career he's had in our reality. And I think you could definitely say the same for Max Verstappen as well. Sergio Perez now on the track, to the happiness of the fans. And he is on, I think, medium compound tyres. Just to let you guys know as well, the tyre compounds this weekend are C4, C3 and C2. So, pretty soft. I was thinking maybe they would go for the hardest compounds around here because of the way the heat and the track really does take a lot out of the tyres. But nice to see them bringing, quite a softer compound than I expected. And this race, this weekend, if there's no safety car, I reckon you could get away with doing a one-stop race, but given how these cars can overtake a lot easier, and, doing a stop extra in a Grand Prix compared to other teams, the biggest penalty for doing an extra pit stop is that you'll have to try and overtake cars, and those cars will hold you up, which is still a factor in today's F1, even with these cars that can overtake a lot easier. But with these cars that factually can overtake easier, a two-stop on Sunday might actually be the way to go, because even if you're held up behind another car, if you've got much fresher tyres, you do have a lot more pace in hand. Sergio Perez on the hard compound tyre actually is coming through into the beginning of the middle sector. And there was just a yellow flag briefly. Don't know who for. As Sergio Perez now coming through the middle sector. Not exactly, pushing as hard as possible, but obviously only practice one. As he now comes into the final sector. And over a single lap, my expectation is that it will be very close between Red Bull and Ferrari. I think you could definitely make the argument that Ferrari would maybe have the best car for qualifying or single laps around this circuit, but I still think on race day Red Bull are, without a doubt, the clear favourites for victory, as we're now looking at an Alpine of Jack Doohan, I think, is it? Or is it Fernando Alonso? Can't quite see. It is Alonso, I'm pretty sure. As, the one we're looking at on the TV broadcast is Fernando Alonso, as we've got some first times on the board. Daniel Ricciardo is currently up in P1. And then Lando Norris is in second position, with Nick De Vries up in third. Obviously, we can't call De Vries a young driver, but he's getting the second outing in a practice session. Did very well earlier in the season at the French Grand Prix when he had an outing in practice 1 in Lewis Hamilton's car. His pace actually was pretty good, considering it was his first session in a Mercedes F1 car at an actual Grand Prix weekend. His pace actually wasn't too bad. Lawson, who's taken over Tsunoda's car today, has just said, "I have no brakes." We have seen a lot of times in the last few Grand Prix weekends that AlphaTauri have had big braking problems. So seems as though straight out of the box, first session of the weekend, that their brakes are still a problem. As Max Verstappen is now P1 on a 123.2. Sergio Perez is up to second with Gasly in third. And then we've got Lance Stroll in fourth place. Well, not anymore, because it's now Lewis Hamilton up in fourth, as they've now hidden, annoyingly, the running order on the TV broadcast, so I can't tell you exactly what it is, but the top 5 is Verstappen, Perez, Gasly, Hamilton, Stroll, as we're looking at a Ferrari coming into the stadium section. I don't quite understand why they're not showing the running order and showing us this high shot. This is why, because they want to show the car development progress from all the teams in 2022, according to AWS. So, according to AWS, Aston Martin are the team that has gained the most out of any other team, which is not necessarily a surprise, because, at the start of the season they were very poor. They have now got the Red Bull and Mercedes people that I think they've hired from other teams now working for them. And as well, last season in the championship, Aston Martin finished in 7th place, which we have to remember. So what that means is Aston Martin have had more wind tunnel time, quite a bit more than, teams like McLaren. Which is why, at the minute, on pace, Aston Martin are right there with McLaren, certainly on race day. And to be honest, with Aston Martin, it might actually be better if they don't overtake Alfa Romeo in the championship, because they'll have a slightly few more % access to the wind tunnel testing for next year. As Ricciardo, by the way, has gone up to second. Valtteri Bottas is up to 5th. Carlos Sainz is in 6th position, with Hamilton in 7th. And I've just noticed that I'm an idiot, because Logan Sargent has actually replaced Albon for this session. So I will have to, unfortunately, break out the thing I had to break out at the last Grand Prix, where I made a mistake with who was replacing who for this session. And I'll have to type the name on the left-hand side, which I'll do in a moment. So it says Albon in 8th, but it's actually Latifi at the moment, as Logan Sargent has just improved up to 17th place. Obviously, Logan Sargent has been announced to be racing for Williams in 2023, as long as he gets the super license points, which I think he will. Alonso is in 11th, with Doohan in P12, as Bottas goes up to 3rd in the Alfa Romeo. And then 13th, we've got Mick Schumacher, as Zhou Guanyu actually now goes up to P11. So Zhou up to 11th, Alonso 12th, Doohan 13th, Schumacher 14th, if I can speak English, De Vries in 15th as Max Verstappen goes even quicker on a 122.2 as Sergio Perez is now second, and yeah, Bottas now ahead of Ricciardo. As Carlos Sainz, I think, has just gone up to P5. Here's a replay of Sargent going deep at, not sure exactly what corner that was. And there's a replay of Alonso cutting the corner at turn 10, which is the end of the S's section. And then we've got, De Vries in 15th, and then Fittipaldi in 16th. Nope, not anymore. Because it's now Sargent in 16th. And then we've got Leclerc, Lawson, and Vettel having not set a time so far in the bottom three positions. But let me just update that, what do you call it? That Lando Norris is now up to 8th. But let me update that, it is actually Latifi, not Albon, in the second Williams. So let me just quickly do that now. As just watching that on the TV broadcast, Pietro Fittipaldi completing another lap. And if I leave it like that, that should be good enough. So, again, apologies, guys. I just got a bit confused in the end as to who was actually taking over the seat there. Let me see if I can actually readjust it and just put Latifi's name there. So, sorry about that. But, the reason I put it there, what do you call it? The reason I put that Albon would be in this session, not Latifi, is because I assumed, because Latifi is not at Williams next season, that they would get Sargent to be in his car again. But clearly, that is not the case. Sergio Perez completes another lap there, but he stays in P2. As Gasly is now up to 4th place, and Carlos Sainz is up to 5th, so Ricciardo is in 6th, with Alonso 7th, Norris 8th, Hamilton 9th, and then Zhou is in 10th place, which pushes Latifi down to P11, and then Stroll in 12th, then Doohan, Schumacher, De Vries, Sargent, and Fittipaldi. And Leclerc, Lawson, Vettel have not done a lap time so far. By the way, good to see Brabham here. He says, won't be a Chazza HD live chat without the bots. Indeed. And Brabham saying, I think Aston will get on top of the midfield next year, but if they want to get serious, they have to drop Stroll, but they'll never do this. I think Stroll, he's still a good driver for them, but he's not consistent with his performances. He's had a few very good performances this season, for example, but they've just come a bit too few and far between, if you know what I mean. As, by the way, Efron, who has done a lap time so far, has done it on the hard compound tyres. As Gasly goes up to 3rd. And Jack Doohan, of course, the son of Mick, is coming around the final corner now and comes to the line and stays in 13th. Doohan has had a very good finish to the F2 season. Obviously, there's one more race in F2 in 3 weeks from now in Abu Dhabi, the same weekend where we'll be finishing off the F1 season. And if next season he wins the F2 championship, which I think is definitely possible, he could be in F1 in 2024. It's definitely a possibility. Will it happen legitimately? I'm not sure it will, because I'm not sure where there'll be room on the grid. But if he does win the F2 championship next year, which again, there's definitely a good chance he'll do that. And good to see, by the way, Mick doing at the Grand Prix. Obviously, 5-time world motorcycle champion. Yeah, if he does win F2, then he definitely puts his name in there, or possibly getting on the grid in 2024. Currently being closely followed by a 4-time world champion named Sebastian Vettel, who's in the form of his life, it appears at the moment, as he is coming to the end of the middle sector on this outlap, and Liam Lawson is also on an outlap. And for Vettel, he it says on the screen, led the US Grand Prix to surpass 3,500 career laps led, the third driver in history to reach that total, only behind Hamilton and Schumacher, which is a very impressive record. There is no doubt about that. And yeah, for a few laps last weekend, he was actually leading the US Grand Prix, and there is no doubt Aston Martin, they have improved their car the most in 2022. And again, the reasons behind that is because they've got those new, better engineers at the team now from some of the higher placed teams from that they, I think, hired, or they announced that they were hiring them last season. And again, because they finished 7th in the championship last year, they've had a lot more time than other teams to develop this car. And if they were to finish 7th in the championship this season, and they turned up at the first race next season with the 4th best car, which is possible, then watch out for them next season, because they really could start to bridge the gap between the midfield and the front 3 teams. But really, the only way for Aston Martin to do that is if they do turn up at the start of next season with, say, the best midfield car. As Alonso briefly went 3rd, Gasly goes back up to 3rd. Sebastian Vettel completes his first lap of the weekend, and he goes 13th. And here's a replay of Carlos Sainz coming down the very, 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 very long pit straight. That's funny. Carlos's engineer told him that Nick De Vries was on an outlap, and then Carlos responded, "What? Debris?" He thought he meant debris, as in, you know, things falling off the cars and that. And yeah, that was funny. Ricardo says, just had full brake knockoff into turn 10. Felt weird. Just check the brakes. Not a great start there. Of course, braking is very important here because you have such a big stop into turn 1. Quite a big stop as well into turn 4. As Sky F1, by the way, have gone to an ad break, so I'll let you know what's going on when they come back from it. Yeah, brakes are very important here, and not just is it the stops, the big stops in turn 1, turn 4, turn 12, I think, as well. You know, the entry to that stadium section, it's also quite important there. The brakes, and it gets a pounding there. Because of the heat and the, you know, the way the cars work at this, I think, sea level, it also gives them a bit of a punishment. Ewok asks, does Doohan have Danny Rick's smile, though? Unfortunately not. You'll never be able to match the Ricciardo smile. Let me have a look. See what's going on Twitter. Obviously, most of it is to do with the Red Bull cost cap situation because of the announcement of their penalty. And just trying to see if there's anything other than that in or on Twitter. But no, it just appears to be a lot of stuff about the cost cap, which again we'll get into in the Practice 2 stream, which will be beginning in about an hour from now, and about 15 minutes after this session finishes in 40 minutes time. But let me just quickly, whilst we're waiting for them to come back from the break, let's just quickly read out what you guys are having to say in the live chat. Brother Moz says, to be honest, I don't think Doohan has the talent or killer instinct of Piastri. Yeah, he's not as good as Piastri, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not good enough for F1. I mean, Piastri, I think we're looking at a driver in Oscar Piastri that is a potential race winner, and if he's in the right car and the right situation, a possible title contender with the amount of talent he has. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's the fairest comparison, because Oscar is probably the best Australian driver there has been since Mark Webber, I would say. And yes, I would say, if you look at what Oscar has done so far in his career, I would say, as a talent, he's more of a talent than Daniel Ricciardo is/was. And we have to remember, Ricciardo, had a good junior career, but even when he was in Toro Rosso, he wasn't, in the first year or so, he was putting in some good performances, but he wasn't, it wasn't like it was with Max Verstappen, for example, in 2015, where it was just so obvious how great Verstappen was. So, yeah, I'd say Piastri is Australia's best hope since Webber of a world champion. Let me have a look at some other comments here in the chat if I can. Ewok says, so we should see Aston Martin racing for the championship in 2023. That would be amazing. It really, really would. An amazing turnaround as they've come back from the ad break, by the way. And Carlos Sainz is up to third now, but it is still Red Bull 1-2. Not just because, it'd be an amazing turnaround, but also, they have Fernando Alonso next year, and we need Alonso up there, because he is still, Alonso, one of the top 5 best drivers in Formula 1. There is no doubt about that. But it's not realistic. I think 2024, 2025-ish, maybe there's a chance they could grab a couple podiums and maybe a race win, but it really depends on how much they improve next season, and also with extra wind tunnel time that they'll have next season compared to the top 5 teams, and probably for the couple years after compared to the top 2 or 3 teams. It depends how they utilize it, because even though the smaller teams get that extra time in the wind tunnel, that does not necessarily mean that you are going to improve by however much percent time extra you have in the wind tunnel compared to another team. We've seen with a team like Ferrari, for example, who funnily enough are on the screen now with Charles Leclerc, who is actually doing his first flying lap on the soft tyres, which is interesting. Valtteri Bottas has done his flying lap on the soft tyres as well, which is interesting. But yeah, even if you have extra wind tunnel time, if you don't, if you're not capable of actually making the improvements to your car, it doesn't matter how much extra time you have, you just won't make the difference. I mean, we have to remember this season that Ferrari have had more wind tunnel time than Mercedes and Red Bull, yet Mercedes and Red Bull have improved the most during this season. So I think that's a great example that just because you get more wind tunnel time with this new rule we have in F1, the sliding scale of aero testing, doesn't necessarily mean you are going to improve compared to those teams. You still need to have the personnel in place and the team in place to get the job done, as Charles Leclerc now goes quickest on the soft compound tyres by 0.7 of a second. So let me just update that quickly. As we're now looking at Carlos Sainz on the hard compound tyres for some reason. Oh, that's why they're showing the replay, because he bumped quite severely over the curb at turn 2. And Carlos saying check the car because he went over some curbs. And yeah, bit of a scruffy lap he had a few minutes ago. So it's Leclerc, P1, and then Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, your top 4, and then it is Bottas in 5th, with Gasly in 6th. Sebastian Vettel is in 7th place for Aston Martin, with Alonso, Ricciardo, and Liam Lawson completing the top 10 at the moment. And then after that, we have Stroll in P11 with Norris in 12th, Hamilton 13th, and then Zhou 14th, and Latifi is 15th for Williams. Let me just readjust that so you guys can actually see it better, that, you know, it's Latifi, not Albon. The Latifi in 15th, and then Doohan in 16th, De Vries 17th, Schumacher 18th, Sargent 19th, and Fittipaldi in 20th, as Mick Schumacher is about to complete a lap, and he does, and he goes up to 2nd with a purple final sector. And only 0.4 of a second off the pace, so the soft tyres are now starting to come out, which I don't think we saw the soft tyres coming out as quick in last week's practice 1, but good to see anyway. And just readjust the Latifi aiming there. Yeah, Leclerc, Schumacher, Verstappen, your top 3. As we're now looking at Sergio Perez on an outlap on the soft compound tyre. Just want to quickly look, though, to see what was the pole position time last year. And let me just have a quick look. So, pole position last year was a 1:15.8. Given how they were in America last weekend, they were... let me just quickly look at it. So, at the US Grand Prix last weekend, they were about 1.5 seconds slower than pole position in 2021. Because of the shorter lap here, probably won't be as big of a drop-off, but pole position tomorrow should be between a mid 1:16 to a mid 1:17, somewhere between that range. Probably somewhere, if you were to shorten it down, probably somewhere between a mid 16 and a low 17, like a 17.1 or a 17.2. And currently Leclerc quickest on a 20.4 or 20.7, sorry. So we are still quite a bit away from, I think, the what the pace will be like probably later in this session, but also tomorrow as well, as Sergio Perez has backed off on his lap. Not sure why, wasn't paying the most attention, to be honest. But Valtteri Bottas, I can tell you, is now up to 2nd, and Zhou is up to 4th, as both Alfa Romeos out there now on the soft tyre. And then it's Verstappen 5th, Perez 6th, and then Sainz, Gasly, Vettel, Alonso completing the top 10. We're now looking at Lando Norris on the soft tyre, down in 14th, and he's about to go, I think, up to 2nd or 3rd. He goes 2nd on a 1:21.1. But, yeah, so far in this session, I would say they're about 3 to 4 seconds off the pace we'll be seeing tomorrow. So, yeah, not quite up to the speed that even I think we'll see probably later in this session and later, hopefully, in practice 2. What I am hoping, by the way, is in practice 2, what we don't see is what we saw last weekend in America, where, of course, practice 2 was extended by half an hour to allow for Pirelli to do some testing of the 2023 tyres. And, of course, the entire session became tyre testing. If that happens again, by the way, just like what happened last weekend, I will cancel my qualifying preview if the practice 2 session just turns out to be one big tyre test, because we just won't have enough relevant data to actually come to a informed conclusion as to, you know, what to look out for and expect in qualifying. So just warning you now, guys, that is a possibility. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but yeah. As Sergio Perez does now his first time on the soft tyre, and he only goes third, 0.4 of a second down on Leclerc. We do know, of course, that Red Bull are not that quick on a Friday, as now Perez brilliantly gives up the slipstream. Now he's completed his lap to Max Verstappen, who's now on his first flying lap of the weekend on the soft tyre, as Fernando Alonso goes up to second. And Verstappen now into the middle sector, now coming into the double right-hander of turn... is it turn 6 and 7? I think it is. And Verstappen now into the middle sector, where the Red Bull should be pretty good. Maybe not as good as the Ferrari. Oh, big moment, and he finally does spin. Max Verstappen did so well not to spin initially. He clumped the curb at turn 9, the inside curb, too hard. Completely lost the car, corrected it, and then completely lost the car in the other direction, and finally spun. Thankfully did not hit the barriers, but he can get going again. His tyres, though, might be a bit flat-spotted, so he might not be able to go for an actual quick lap on those tyres. We will see. As Sebastian Vettel is now up to 6th place. And, yeah, Verstappen clumped the inside curb too hard, corrected it, and then he had to correct the next slide going in the other direction and just couldn't hold it. But a valiant effort it was. And he says, it's unbelievable. I couldn't correct it. So little grip. We do see that a lot here. The grip around this circuit is not very good. Tends to be quite dirty, the track. I mean, that's a big reason why we saw Ricciardo punt Valtteri Bottas at turn 1 last year, because offline, it's just, the track is so dirty here. And even online, on the racing line, it's not the greatest grip you'll have during a Formula 1 season compared to other tracks, as Carlos Sainz now goes quickest by 0.5 tenth over Leclerc to a 120.7 as well. So it is Sainz, Leclerc, Alonso, Norris, Perez, your top 5, and then Bottas in 6th. Gasly is in 7th, with Vettel 8th, Zhou 9th, and Schumacher 10th. And then Max Verstappen is now down to P11. And Latifi is now in P12, as he's done his soft tyre run there briefly. And then you got Ricciardo 13th, Lawson 14th, and then Stroll, Hamilton, Doohan, De Vries, Sargent, and Fittipaldi. As we are just over halfway into this session. Rook says in the chat, shake my head when Chazza says, let's look at chat. Key stage 3 French. Let's get some insightful F1 chat going. Yeah. Sometimes, obviously, in my chat, we do get some other conversations going, but yeah, let's try, if we can, to stick on topic. As Pierre Gasly getting very annoyed there at Latifi, blocking him down the pit straight and saying, very good job, Nicholas, on the radio. As we're now looking at Zhou Guanyu, who's about to do a practice start on the exit of the pit lane. And Max Verstappen, by the way, is still out on the track. So we will see if he can improve. Rooks asks, why is this track so different? Even in Merc dominance days, Red Bull shone here. Yeah, the reason is because, obviously, at them racing at such high an altitude, the power unit difference is eliminated. It's not at all about straight line speed here. It is purely about, at this track, how much grip your car has. As it appears, Zhou's Alfa Romeo is stuck at the exit of the pit lane because he's not moving. Is he getting out of the car? No, just sat there trying to correct whatever's going on in there. The Alfa Romeo mechanics are stood at the very exit of the pit lane, not with him, because they're not allowed to. Zhou is beyond the where the green light is, but yeah, it appears he has a problem. As Lance Stroll goes up to 10th. And yeah, what I'm trying to say is because of the, sea level, as Max Verstappen, by the way, has gone up to 4th place now. Because of the difference and all of that at sea level, yeah, straight line speed doesn't matter here. It's all about the downforce. So, that should help Ferrari, should help Mercedes, as the marshals are now pushing Zhou's car back behind the pit lane exit. As a Haas there of Pietro Fittipaldi just exited the pit lane. And yeah, this track all about downforce, which is why we have had some interesting results here in the past. But it is currently, in this session, Sainz quickest from Leclerc 2nd, Perez 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Alonso 5th, Norris 6th, Bottas 7th, Gasly 8th, Vettel 9th, and Zhou in 10th. And then Stroll is 11th, with Schumacher in 12th. Yellow flag in Sector 1. Who is that for? It's a Haas of Pietro Fittipaldi, who literally just came out of the pit lane, and it looks as though he might have broken down. As Bottas just improves up to 6th. And yet, red flag has come out. Obviously, the timer will keep running because it is a practice session. But, yeah, it looks as though he has broken down. Which is a shame for him because he's not had a lot of running in this session, Pietro. And now, with 22 minutes to go, his car seems to have failed him. But let me just quickly read out the order, as we've now got a red flag. Yep, Sainz it is, quickest from Leclerc 2nd, Perez 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Alonso 5th, Bottas 6th, Norris 7th, Gasly 8th, Vettel 9th, Zhou 10th, Stroll 11th, Schumacher 12th, Latifi 13th, Ricciardo 14th, Lawson 15th, Hamilton 16th, and then Doohan, De Vries, Sargent, and Fittipaldi at the very rear of the field. And one thing I will do quickly, whilst we've got a red flag, is I will post in the chat quickly the link to my Practice 2 stream. So you guys know where to go. So, and I've just posted it now. It'll appear for you guys probably, 30, 40 seconds later or something. Make sure when this session ends in 21 minutes time, when I cut stream off, make sure to head over to my Practice 2 watch-along and click that link. And make sure that you are, sat there waiting there, because about 15 minutes later I'll go live over there. And then we'll get into the majority of the streaming today, as they told Fittipaldi to stop the car, pull over and stop the car immediately. So obviously they saw a problem, and that's what the problem was. He had an engine blow up. Not a massive one, but yeah, the Ferrari PU letting go, not great. because obviously Magnussen in the car this weekend, practice 2 on. And yeah, that is a shame for Haas and Magnussen, who obviously had a great US Grand Prix. But Sky F1 have now gone to an ad break. So guys, if you've got any comments or questions you want to ask me, then make sure to post it in the chat, and I'll get to some of those in a moment. Just having a look on Twitter to see if there is any news I can bring you guys quick. Just having a quick look. Again, most of it is about the Red Bull cost cap. And yeah, there's nothing really new that I can see. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything. Just trying to make sure that I've not missed out. No. Can't see anything on Twitter, so no news at the moment. But yeah, make sure to post comments in the chat whilst we wait for the practice 1 session to get underway again. Or if you want to ask something, then make sure to go for it. One thing I can say quickly is, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because I will be live later, obviously, for Practice 2. I'll be going live on the Practice 2 watch-along. Again, click that link in the live chat that I posted and my moderator, Rooksfoot, posted, because I'll be going live there at 8:15 p.m. UK time, which is in about, 35 minutes from now, I think, for a hour and 45-minute build-up to Practice 2, where we'll be getting into the Red Bull cost cap situation and the results of that whole situation as well. And then we'll be getting into the Alonso penalty reversal as well. And then, of course, Practice 2 starts at 10 p.m. UK time and is an hour-and-a-half session. So I'll be doing a watch-along for that as well. And then for tomorrow, I'll be going live again at 4 p.m. UK time for my qualifying preview until 5:45. And then from 5:45 till 7 p.m. UK time, I'll be doing the Practice 3 watch-along, 7 till 9 p.m. build-up to qualifying, 9 till 10 p.m. UK time, I'll be doing the qualifying watch-along, and then for at least half an hour after the session finishes, I'll be doing a reaction to that session with you guys. So yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to come along to those streams tomorrow, or to that stream, rather, tomorrow. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And for everyone watching right now, don't forget to smash the like button. What, can we have a poll? I'm going to say no, because there's nothing to poll you guys about. But, yeah. Probably tomorrow you'll see some polls in chat. Actually, you know what? I will probably run a couple polls, or at least one poll in my chat later in the Practice 2 watch-along when I get into the whole Red Bull cost cap thing. But yeah, that'll be later on. As we've now come back from the ad break, the red flags have gone away, green flags waving, and we've got Sebastian Vettel out on track on an outlap. And Vettel currently in 9th position. Sebastian's had pretty good history around here. He finished in the points here last year. I think he finished 7th or 8th, was it, last year? I think he definitely finished in the points. I'm pretty sure he did Vettel. And then, what do you call it? He had pole position here back in 2017. Was leading the race for a while in 2019 and was really screwed over by his own team as to why he didn't win that Grand Prix. So this is a good circuit for Sebastian, and the Aston Martin working well, so I expect him to be, at least on race day, pretty competitive. As Vettel comes through the final corner now and begins a new flying lap and is now halfway just about down the pit straight. I think this is the longest pit straight on the calendar. Maybe Monza is longer, I'm not sure, but it is pretty long. As Vettel now coming on to the second DRS straight, where he's not got DRS open, so I assume he's just running maybe some more fuel for this run, which would be a wise thing, because the race on Sunday is taking place around this time on Sunday. So with 15 minutes left, it would be wise to get some runs in to see what the pace is looking like and how the tyres are handling in these conditions, which I think these conditions we have now in practice is the exact same conditions pretty much we'll have on Sunday and tomorrow as well. So, yeah. As Vettel just coming through the final stadium section of the lap. One thing I did want to say or get into was when I was talking about, at sea level, straight line speed doesn't matter here. When I say that, I mean in regards to the power units. With the way you set your car up, it still does matter. And in the first sector, it does matter still. So, that still will be an advantage for Red Bull this weekend. But it just won't, they won't be able to use any advantage they may have from their power unit to be, quicker than a certain team. And the team or power unit manufacturer, whatever you want to call them, that will be affected the most by that is Ferrari, because we believe Ferrari have the most powerful engine on the grid. Followed by Honda, then Mercedes, then Renault, then Mercedes. So, yeah. Ferrari won't get any help from that this weekend, but their car has a lot of grip, and they do set their cars up to be a lot more focused on downforce rather than top-end speed, as Lewis Hamilton is now on the soft tyres on a flying lap, I think, is Hamilton. He's currently all the way down in 17th position is Hamilton. And the reason he's in 17th is because who has jumped up the order? Logan Sargent, has gone up to 16th place. So Hamilton now in 17th, and Hamilton so far on this lap about 0.4 of a second slower than Carlos Sainz as he now comes into the final sector, where, to be honest, the Mercedes should be at its slowest because they don't like the slow speed corners. And he goes, Hamilton, up to 5th. He actually did a pretty good final sector, to be honest. Yeah, goes P5 does Hamilton. Alonso, I've just seen there, has been told on the radio to stop short shifting. And Alonso said it's impossible. So there's Lewis's father, Anthony Hamilton, in the Mercedes garage. Good to see him. Obviously, he's been a great influence on his son. As Sergio Perez is coming down the pit straight with the McLaren of Lando Norris right behind him. And will Norris go down the inside? No, he won't, as Perez continues on. And I think Perez is on a bit of a heavier fueled run here because he did not have DRS open down the pit straight. So, yeah, Perez and Norris maybe on a bit of a longer run than they were earlier. I've just noticed, actually, Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, they've set the exact same lap time of a 1:20.827. They've both done the exact same time, but the reason Perez is ahead is because he set it first. So, that's funny. And it would be funny if it did happen tomorrow. As Ricciardo is about to complete a flying lap on the soft tyres. Down in 15th currently. And this is his first run on the soft tyres. And Ricciardo goes up to 11th place and is about 6.5 tenths of a second slower by the looks of it than Norris. So not a great lap there. Yeah, not great at all, considering he has access to more, what do you call it, to more grip at this part of the session than Norris had earlier. A bit sad for Jack Doohan. It appears they've decided that that is his session over and done with, and are now breaking down the car and I think getting it ready for Esteban Ocon in practice too. As, yeah, he's in the pits in 18th. So not great there, to be honest. I mean, you know, it would be nice to see him have a few more laps than he did. But at the end of the day, that's Alpine's right. They can do whatever they want with their cars in terms of, you know, when they run, how long they run for. Hank M, did you mention, Shaz, that Mexico City is at sea level? Yep, I've mentioned it. Don't worry about that. Brabham says Anthony Hamilton has been at races a lot more lately. That makes me suspicious. I'm not sure it is maybe what you think it is. I think it might be more so because they have a bit of a better, stronger relationship maybe than they did have in the mid part of the last decade. Obviously, when Lewis dropped his father as his agent, I don't think the relations were as good after that point for a few years. But, you know, the last few years, they've, yeah, they're now back to how they were in a relationship sense by the looks of it, as they were, you know, when Lewis was young, as we had a yellow flag there briefly in Sector 2. As Nick De Vries, I've noticed, has gone up to 18th. He's still on the hard tyre, doing just a long run, I think, for Mercedes there. And here is Gasly passing a Mercedes who is, or was, slow into turn 12. And that was Ricciardo going past the Mercedes that had to get out of the way. And I think it was Hamilton, yeah. Got out of the way of Gasly and then got out of the way of Ricciardo. I don't think there was anything wrong with what Hamilton did there whatsoever, as now we look at Zhou Guan Yu, is it? Bottas and Zhou, actually. Line astern on the track on hard tyres, clearly doing a bit of a longer run. And, yeah, the C2 compound should be the compound of choice on Sunday, because I'm not sure maybe the one-stop strategy will be the quickest around here, but doing a long stint, whether it be at the end or in the middle of the race, will be very important to, you know, to getting the doing the ideal strategy, and you will have to do that probably on the hard tyre. So yeah, the hard tyre will get a lot of work in on Sunday. Here's a replay of Liam Lawson locking the inside front into turn 4 and then going straight on, and that's what the yellow flag was for. Thankfully, there is an absolute mile of runoff, as Verstappen. Oh, Verstappen almost spun there through turn 5. Turned into turn 5 as normal, and the car almost sent him straight into the barriers. So clearly the rear end of that Red Bull is not dialed in yet, as Bottas on soft tyres is, yeah, clearly on a heavier fueled run. You can see that visually because his car not moving around the track as quickly as it was earlier. As we're about to enter the final 5 minutes of this session, and your current top 10 still: Carlos Sainz first, Leclerc second, Perez 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Hamilton 5th, Alonso 6th, Bottas 7th, Norris 8th, Gasly 9th, and Sebastian Vettel in P10. We'll see if there's any changes before the session is over, as Bottas comes to the line, and yeah, he's about 3.5 seconds off the pace right now, so clearly doing a longer run, simply to see how the tyres perform and what the pace is like with heavier fuel on board. And so far in this session, Fernando Alonso has been the one who has completed the most amount of laps. 25 in total. Just behind him is Sainz, Gasly and Stroll. They're getting in, all of the drivers and teams, some good running. And again, fingers crossed in practice too, that we're not just going to get a 1 hour and a half Pirelli test session like we did a week ago, because that would be very boring. As we've got yellow flag in sector 3. Not sure. Oh, it's an AlphaTauri of... Not sure. I think it's Liam Lawson. Yeah, I think it's Liam Lawson. Is it a brake problem? Let's... well, the brakes are on fire, but I think that's just because he's stationary. I don't think that's because they have caused the stop on track. And now, red flag. And I'm pretty sure we won't get any more running in before the end of the session. So, yeah, I will probably come to the end of this stream in just a moment, guys. But, yeah, those front brakes are on serious fire. And the marshals need to get to that, because that's going to cause a lot of damage to the front brakes there if they don't get a fire extinguisher to it. Because that thing is cooking. Yeah, those front brakes are absolutely cooking. And Liam Lawson's got out of his car and he's wondering, like, where are the marshals? And now there's the fire on the left front brake. We just saw the flames pop out. So they need to deal with it, as they've got a fire extinguisher there now. And there you go. They're actually finally using it. And hopefully they use it a bit more than that, because I think it's still on fire. And I don't think it's just the left front brake either. I think the front right brake also is on fire as well. But yeah, not quite sure what the actual issue was. And all the cars now coming back into the pits, as Lawson already, I think, has gone, or is on his way back to the garage. Hopefully in a moment we will. Here we go, we're seeing a replay of now what happened to Liam Lawson. So he comes through into turn 12 and something happened there. It says, mate, what the fuck is going on? And then they say, stop the car, on track in a safe place. Went straight on and then got to the entry to the stadium section, and yeah, looks to be some sort of fire or something on the rear brake, and the session will not be resumed, guys. So let me get rid of the timer. So that's practice 1 done, guys, and let me go through your final finishing order of the session itself. So Carlos Sainz ends up quickest, with Charles Leclerc in 2nd, Sergio Perez in 3rd, Max Verstappen 4th, Hamilton 5th, Alonso 6th, Bottas 7th, Norris 8th, Gasly 9th, and Vettel in 10th. And the rest of the order, Ricciardo, Zhou, Stroll, Schumacher, Latifi, Lawson, Sargent, De Vries, Doohan, and Fittipaldi. So that's practice 1, guys. And quickly, I will post in the chat, along with Rook, the link to the practice 2 stream. And there you go. I've just posted it in the chat. You guys should get it very soon. And hopefully Rook will post it a couple times as well. So make sure to go to that stream now, guys. And in about 15 minutes, I'll be live again over there for the practice 2 watch along. And we'll get into, in the build-up, the Red Bull cost cap situation, the Alonso penalty reversal, and then, of course, the practice 2 session as well. So thanks everyone for coming along for this stream. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, if you are new. And for everyone watching still, don't forget to smash the like button on this stream to help out the channel in its growth. And follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 to keep up with the content on this channel. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server. But guys, until my Practice 2 stream in about 15 minutes time, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.